G'day team, it's Hamish here from Automower Tech, and today we're going to talk about my favourite model, the 450x. So the 450x, we'll go more into depth why it's my favourite model, but we'll talk about a few stats and statistics and bits and pieces and what it gets up to. But the 450x is made for the larger lawns, up to 5,000 square metres or 1.2 acres. Personally, as an installer and technician of Automowers, I prefer to put this on lawns up to about 4.2. I have them on lawns up to 5,000 square metres by all means, if the boundary wire allows it and depending on the layout, but that's only on a really low growth area. So if it's a stony ground, browns off in summer and you don't grow too much grass. But generally, like all the other Automowers of any make and model, you are prefer best to go a little bit under what their maximum size is, especially if you're in an area that has a really high growth area, it's thick, and you do fertilise it and maintain your lawn. So that's the area it covers. Next up from that, it does run on a boundary wire system, which is really good. I know there's EPOS on the market now, which is becoming more and more popular as they get more installed, and that's really cool. But they're made for more open areas. They can do quite a bit of complexity as well, and they've got a lot more advanced features on top of the 450x, but they can't always do where the 450x can do, because if you want to mow around a lot of trees or under full canopy trees and bits and pieces and around narrow passageways and tight houses where you're not going to get your radio signal and your GPS signal, so that's where the 450 will still do really, really well. It's a proven model and it's been out for a while, and for good reason, because it's sort of on the top of its game. So a little bit more about the 450x as far as size and weight. So it's 13.9 kilo. It's not too heavy, but it's got a good amount of weight to it, so it can handle a bit of slope as well. It can handle 15% slope on your boundary. That's mostly on a downward boundary, so if you've got your boundary wire on the lower side of your garden and it's more than 15%, that boundary will be too much. But in the internal of the install, you can go up to a 45% slope. Its angle sensors internally in the mower will detect that it is tackling a slope, and it'll behave different. It'll hit that slope on an angle, and then when it comes to the downward of a slope and comes to a boundary, instead of doing a 3-point turner, so it'll scoot around, keep that momentum out of the turn. So it's quite cool to watch that. Where I am, most of the lawns are pretty flat, but we got a few that are on a bit more of a slope, and it's quite cool to watch them. So yeah, it's 13.9 kilo. It is a bit bigger than our other Automowers because it is made to the larger lawns. So it's 71 centimetres long, 56 wide and 31 high. So that's good specs if you're going to make a hole in your fence or something like that. If you are going to do that, you really want to go about a metre wide and about 45 high to make a gap through your hedge or a fence. On that topic, going through hedges and across driveways and bits and pieces like that, the 450x is awesome for that, because it can run up to 3 guide wires. Same as the 535 and the 550, they all have 3 guide wires as well. But 3 guide wires when it comes to complexity and keeping a search time down are really critical, because not only where you run that guide wire through the internal of the garden and where the guide wire finishes, that's going to assist the mower to strategically start in certain places on the lawn so it can better keep up with these different areas. On a basic lawn, none of that's as concerning, but if you are thinking about going one guide wire through a garden and passing through 2 different garden sections, another guide wire it comes right around the house and does the back side of the house, and then a third one might go across the driveway and do like an internal island of a driveway, or your garden that wraps around the other side of your property and the lawn over there. So plenty of driveway crossings in the larger lawns and stuff with the 450s, and across pathways and through gardens, because everyone wants to tackle every part of their lawn, so it's no problems doing that. Other producers of Automowers don't use the guide wires, but the guide wires do assist the Automowers a lot, and they also help the search time to be reduced when it's returning to the charge station. So running those guide wires internally is important, but all of that's not too much concern if you're going to get an installer to do the install for you. So it's only if you're going to do a self-install. Some people do a self-install with the wire of these themselves, but majority of people will get an installer like myself or a Automower technician to put that boundary wire down and bury it, because it's going to be a lot less labour intensive with the right equipment and get that wire situated in the right spot. So this has a mow time of 4.5 hours or 270 minutes, charged for about an hour to an hour and 10. It can operate around the clock, so through rain that won't matter, it'll just continue to mow. So the only things that'll really slow it down is frost and snow, and neither of them you're going to be needing to mow in anyway, because it's later in your season, you're not going to have the growth. So covering 208 square metres an hour with a 24 centimetre cut. How the cutting system works and does so well is because it is a narrow cut, but it'll follow the undulations of your lawn, giving you that carpet look. You're going to want to do a bulk amount of hours regularly with any Automower, and then that keeps on top of your lawn, and you're just taking little clippings off regularly and often. So the cutting system, so 24 wide, it's running 3 razor blades, has a skid plate to deflect anything that may come in contact with the cutting motor. That keeps it separate from the cutting disc. The 3 razor blades, so you're slicing grass rather than whacking them. They're going to slice it and give it a real neat finish. And then you also have a rubber bellow. Probably can't see that on the video, but through here, the good thing about this design is it's very hard for anything to get bound up. And that's pretty key, because you can think of this model doing sometimes hundreds of hours before anyone gives these a service of any kind. And I'm not meaning like a full-on service, I'm just meaning go and check up on the mower and have a look. So they could run for a couple of weeks or so, no worries, and not have an error or anything on a good lawn in a correctly installed environment. And you would just give it a quick clean up, especially in spring and autumn when you get that grass binding up on the bottom of it. You'll also notice here that the shell is independent. So that's for a couple of reasons, because it allows bump sensors to crank in. It keeps the safety margin away from your blades, because this is an autonomous robot with razor blades that are spinning at 2,300 RPM. So you want to keep that free from any debris. It also allows it to give its lift sensors. The tilt sensors, they're internally on the back of the main board, so then it can detect when it's on an angle or a slope, and it'll behave a little bit more differently. And then you've got your stop start button at the back here, full menu function. You also have Automower Connect, so you can access this on your phone remotely and see what your mower's up to, pause it, park it up, stop, change the cutting height. You don't have aim mapping on this model like you do on many of the newer models, the newer 400 series, X-Line series, but it does remember an internal map, so it will remember where it has mowed and where it hasn't mowed. So, but it's pretty carefree as far as maintaining the lawn. You just set it all up initially, and then you just set your schedule, tell it how many hours it can mow in a day, what part of the day you want it to mow. That amount of hours will depend on the size of your lawn. So if you've got a 2,500 square metre lawn, you might be doing 12 to 24 hours in spring for a couple of 3 weeks or so, and then you might average around 15 for coming out of spring, and then in summer you might average like 12 hours. But those times are where it's going to vary per day and how many days you mow, depending on the environment of your lawn and how well cared it is for and watered and fertilised. A little bit more in here. We'll just take the cover off so you can have a wee bit of a look. So then you've got your lift sensors here and your bump sensors. None of this is too important, but when it comes to cleaning the unit, if you're worried about how you get under the shell, you can just unclip these toggles through here. You locate them back onto the grommets, snap them back down. Yeah, so that's a basic rundown of the 450X. To sum it up, it's made for the large lawns. It's a really proven unit that's been long term in Husqvarna. There's been several generations of this, relatively, of this version, so Husqvarna's up to 400 series and plus, because they're redoing the 400 series and moving on as they go through and progress the mowers. So they have made many improvements in firmware and hardware on these models as they go as well. So it's quite cool how, even though this model's been out for a little bit, they still continue to improve them and troubleshoot them and carry on. But generally on a mower like this, you just want to service it once a year. Get your technician or dealer to give it a once over. He'll get a firmware update and a good clean, check out the wheels, check out the internals, error messages, anything else concerning, remove wheels and cutting system and keep it in top shape. Yeah. So that's it for the 450X. Any questions, shoot them below, and we'll see you in the next one, guys. Cheers.